Poison has for too long haunted this nation. What is that poison? White supremacy. Oh, it is. It's a poison. Throughout our history, it's ripped this nation apart. It has no place in America.
It's President Biden today. Today's message was part 2 of his reelection campaign. White supremacy has no place in America, and that is accurate. But here's the problem for President Biden. White supremacy does not exist as a meaningful threat, accepted political ideology, or significant problem in America today. Successful presidential campaigns focus on aspirational messages about the future, not promises to fight something that is repugnant, but that is already universally scorned in America. Loyal Democrats know they have a problem. Much like going to war with the army you have, presidential reelection campaigns must campaign with the president they have. Just 36% approve of his handling of the economy. Here now, former advisor to Senator Joe Manchin, Jonathan Kott. Jonathan, nice to see you. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you. I keep hearing from moderate Democrats this fear that running on Donald Trump's terrible and Donald Trump's racist will get the base to turn out, or might get some of the base to turn out, is not going to get the swing voters that Joe Biden needs.
Yeah, I think he has to have a two-pronged approach. I think we follow politics every day. The average voter hasn't paid attention to the daily politics and kind of forgets what Donald Trump did on January 6th in the aftermath. So Biden has the problem of reminding voters about that, but then he also has to take a page out of the Donald Trump playbook and brag about his accomplishments. I think that's why his poll numbers are so low. He's not actually out there talking about everything that he's accomplished in his first term.
I would argue he does do economic events a lot. They just don't seem to resonate. How much of the problem, though, is the third part of going to war with the army you have or the candidate you have? This is a guy who can't do 6 events a day. He can't barnstorm. They'll put him out from 10 to 4, and they'll give him 1 or 2 events a day. It's just he did what should have been a prime time campaign event at Valley Forge in the middle of the day.
I think part of his problem is he's actually president now. It's easier to run for president when you're not president because you just have.
Oh, come on. You got Air Force One as president.
Right. But he actually he has a full-time day job, and, it's not even a day job. It's a 24-hour job. He's got to do that every day and fit in campaigning and getting around the country while all of that is going on. So I do think as you kick
that is the best spin on how it's difficult to run for re-election as an incumbent that I have ever heard. The difficulties of the incumbency has never quite been articulated that way. This is what I think is interesting, though. There are a lot of those on the left, and we're going to play now from Kristen Welker on Meet the Press and Al Sharpton as well, talking about the warning from President Obama. Take a listen.
Does the campaign see this warning by former President Obama as a wake-up call? Will there be structural changes to the campaign?
Look, our campaign has been awake since the president announced in April, which is why we've come out the gate swinging.
Is that Barack Obama, despite the lofty place he has in history, has his ear to the ground, and he's hearing the rumblings.
What is Barack Obama hearing the rumblings of?
I think Barack Obama is hearing the rumblings from the left. I think what Joe Biden needs to do is tack back to the center. That's actually how he won the Democratic primary, and that's how he won the 2020 election. He needs to go back to the center where actually the majority of the country is. The base of our country is the 60% in the middle, not the extremes on each side. I think they're pushing him too far to the left, and he's responding to that. And that may be where Al Sharpton is. That's not where most of the country is. He needs to get back.
And there's a big problem, right? He's got to try to get his base to turn out, which is what you hear on the January 6th stuff and what we heard today. And then that doesn't necessarily work with the center. It's good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.